Thank you to the witnesses, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I join my colleagues in expressing concern about the President's proposed skinny budget. Maintaining a robust diplomatic presence around the world is vital to U.S. national interests, as you know. The new budget represents a total reduction of roughly $17.3 billion, or 31.5% from last year's budget. This reckless slashing of the State Department and USAID limits America's influence and leadership in the world. In the complex global world that we are currently living in, we cannot afford to retreat into isolationism. Cutting foreign aid is not only bad policy, it's also dangerous, as you have heard. Military leaders always talk about tackling problems left of boom. This is exactly what foreign aid accomplishes. Secretary Mattis has made clear that his strategy to defeat ISIS involves a strong partnership with the State Department. And as you know, he has said in the past, if you don't fund the State Department fully, then I need to buy more ammunition. We've said it over and over. Research has also proven the importance of aid combating terrorism. According to the RAND Corporation, the evidence since 1968 around how terrorism ends indicates that terrorist groups are almost never defeated as a result of a military campaign. Rather, most groups end because of operations carried out by local police or intelligence agencies, or because they join the political process. So, Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent that this report be submitted into the hearing record. Our international affairs budget funds global diplomacy, development, and governance programming, all of which work together to increase states' capacities to negotiate peace processes, increase the capacity of states' police and justice systems, and build healthy communities and civil society organizations that can sustainably build peace in their communities. My question. Ambassador Burns, terrorist organizations like ISIS have established footholds in Iraq, Syria, and Northern Africa. How would cutting international aid affect U.S. efforts to combat terrorism? And in your view, how do the State Department and USAID complement the military's efforts to counter ISIS and extremists around the world?
Thank you, Congresswoman. We need a full U.S. government effort. Our intelligence community, our military, are obviously on the front lines of this. But as I suggested earlier, the State Department is the organizer of our coalitions against terrorist groups. Secretary Tillerson did that last week when he hosted the summit against the Islamic State. And we also have these programs to try to combat the ideology of these terrorist groups. That takes time to work. And I don't think you can expect instant results. And so we have to stick with this. And I suggested earlier, I just want to say, Secretary Powell had this universal view that every part of our government had to be involved. So we shouldn't take one part of the government out of the fight.
And then just as an aside, what do you think is the effect that the Secretary is not going to NATO or didn't go to NATO? I didn't know if someone asked you that.
My understanding is that there's now been an attempt to work out a different date so that Secretary Tillerson, as he can be at the meeting with Xi Jinping in Mar-a-Lago, and he obviously should be there, but that he can also then attend the NATO foreign ministers meeting. I think that's a very good result, and I'm very pleased. Congratulate Secretary Tillerson on that.
Right, I'm glad to hear that also. And the other thing is, my colleague mentioned that when he came here, he wanted to take away all foreign aid, and I was glad to hear what he said. But I also agree with what he said, but also I think that we do need to take a close look at evaluating how we're spending the money and making sure we are not wasting any money, because I think that no matter Democrat or Republican, that is everyone's concern. We want to make sure the money we're putting forth is used very effectively. So, and I yield back the rest of my time.
Thank you, Robin.